Hey everybody, and welcome to another show. We have a very special one for you all tonight. Now this one, we are taking a step into the paranormal and into ghost hunting, ghost investigation, paranormal research, whatever you want to call it. As you all know, I'm a paranormal investigator and I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And one of the things that you learn over a very long time in the field is that there's no real ideal tool that will do everything that you want. So old school people start out with things like dowsing rods and voice recorders and an old click camera. And that takes you all the way through to the more modern people who use things like SLS cameras, the Ovilus, the Paranormal Puck. I mean, even that's going back a bit now. But one thing that every single paranormal investigator cannot agree on is what is the ideal tool. Now, this is an old question that's been going around for a while, and a lot of developers started talking about doing paranormal apps and things like that for your phone and use the sensors on your phone. Now, what most people will find is that almost every one of these apps, not all, but almost every one of these apps is just a big gimmick, and it's all about getting you to buy their apps, and then you can go out there and pretend to be a ghost hunter. Now, there are a few apps out there that are really good, and tonight we're talking to a gentleman who has created a new suite, or he's in the process of creating a new suite of apps that uses every sensor on the phone. Now, I'm not talking about just a word bank that randomly spits out words. He's actually already run through it with me, and he's actually shown me this thing in action, and I can say 100% that everything that I've been shown so far is genuine. The EMF detection on it works. The motion sensors on it work. Everything that I've seen so far works, and it's legitimate. So we're going to bring him on in just a moment, and he's going to show you all about this app, because this app, the first in the suite of apps, is going to be going live in the next week, and it's in beta testing right at the moment, and he has actually given me a copy of the file so that I can test it out myself. So you will hear my findings on it as well. But I'd like to introduce everybody to Steve from Growlers Paranormal, and that's the name of the suite of apps. And I'd like to have him tell you a little bit more about how it all came about and what is in the future of this group of apps, which so far looks absolutely sensational. Stephen Lewis, welcome to the show. Would you like to tell everybody how you started your app building career in the paranormal? What first got you interested in paranormal research?
Oh, okay. So thanks, Gary, for this. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So so what got me interested in the paranormal, really, I've always been fascinated by some things that you cannot explain. But when things really it sort of really changed, shall I say, after my sort of personal experience. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law passed away when he was just 23. And my wife, which is obviously his sister, was absolutely devastated. About a week later, one night we decided to do an EVP recording, and I asked her out loud if he was there with us. And when we played it back, after my voice, you can clearly hear him with a response, "I'm here." And to be honest, it scared both of us senseless, but it also lit a spark in myself as well. And I thought, okay, there's something going on here. You know, what limits can I push to understand this a lot better? So maybe even open up a way to communicate, which is a bit more clear. And that moment is what really pushed me deeper into the paranormal, really.
Wow. Yeah, everybody has their own, I like to call them, origin story and how they first got interested in the paranormal. I won't go into mine because people who are watching have probably heard it 1,000 times already. But it can be a very, what's the word for it? A very humbling experience, and it leave you with a lot of questions. So where did you go from that first EVP? Did you start looking at using dowsing rods or old school things, or did you go straight to see what you could download off the internet?
100%. The first thing I did was to actually look into YouTube channels. So I didn't, obviously when you first do your ever first DBP and you're getting a response, but it was a very clear response. I'm like, okay, was this real? Okay, that's the first thing. I like to make sure that everything that I'm hearing and seeing is real. Okay.
Yeah.
So straight away, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at YouTube videos, watching, certain people and groups. And then from that point, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to just start out and see if I can find the truth behind it. So when I started out, it was the basics. It was a torch recorder, the £6.99 EMF meters, which,
Well, yeah, I always say the easiest way to start out is with the very basic stuff, because I've got a paranormal team over here in Western Australia, and whenever I'll do a public hunt, because we bring members of the public out with us so they can experience what it's like, because they're very nervous about going into a cemetery at night and things like that. So when you've got a decent group, I will turn around to them and say, trust your feelings. Your body has got every sensor that you see in every TV show. Your goosebumps and the hairs on your arm standing up, it's picking up fluctuations in the field around you. You can pick up cold spots. You've got ears, you've got eyes, and it's all the same stuff that you have in a camera. So I said, when you first start out, just go out with a voice recorder and the old K2 to get started with before you start upgrading to tri-fields and then further up from there. And I think it's always a great way to start because it gets you exposed to it all. And so from there, what took you to the next step?
So from there, that's when I went down the rabbit hole. I brought a spirit box, the cat balls, the dowsing rods, and even a REM pod. But here's the thing. When I went out on investigations with it, and you first turn on your REM pod and it's screaming at you because you're holding it, right? And you put it down. You're wanting it to go off, right? But it doesn't. And I'm like, okay, I've just got this. I want it to work. So when our first ever couple of investigations was very quiet, right? We didn't really have many things going off and stuff, and the cat balls and all that sort of stuff. And then I realized, well, why don't we go to a different area, right? And that's when I realized when we went to the different area, it was more active. Things were starting to go off, and it was the first time I'd ever heard the REM pod go off. And as you know, as many people that are watching or listening, that noise is rather loud when it goes off, and the hairs on every part of my body stood up, right? And I was straight away, I'm like, wow, and that feeling you just can't ever get, from anything else. And that's when I started really sort of, start using motion detectors at this point now. And, and every time I had some time off of work, I was never at home because, I work as a coach driver in the UK. So again, I'm out during the day or out during the week. And then in the evening, I'm disappearing, and the wife's like, well, where are you going? I'm saying, well, here's the evidence of what I've got so far. I need to find more. And it's almost like the same as if you're getting a tattoo, right?
There's a reason I'm wearing a long sleeve t-shirt today.
Yes, but it's addictive, right? That's exactly what it was like. Well, like for me anyway, yeah. It's just so addictive.
It is. I mean, you're lucky because I started out my paranormal journey in the UK, but I was only young at the time and I wasn't into it as hardcore because this was pre-internet. That's sort of telling you how old I am. And a lot of the information was going down to the library and reading in libraries, and you get the weirdest look when you ask for that section where all the ghosts and the UFOs and things like that are. And that's what originally got me started. Now, like I said, I grew up in the northeast of England. The town I grew up in was around pre-1066. It was well established when the Doomsday Book came out and things like that. So there were a lot of places that were very active, and that's where I sort of, broke my teeth into the whole thing. But it wasn't until I came over here I was 13, 14 years old when we moved to Australia, and Australia's not as new. It's not as old as the UK. So there are more limited places, but some of the places here are absolutely ridiculous. And over the years, I've been able to work with some of the most famous people in the paranormal. I've investigated some of the greatest places around the world. And what I've found is that you're forever evolving the way you investigate. And this is
That's
what
right.
drew me to your post that I saw on Facebook. And that's how I got in contact with you. Where did you go from investigating to the paranormal and using the different devices and things like that to actually deciding to uh, build your own app?
Yeah. So like I said, I've been using the traditional tools.
Yeah,
But here's the thing: they're all budget versions because all the proper gear costs a small fortune.
it does.
And honestly, sometimes they work, sometimes they didn't. It's a bit like flipping a coin. But that's when I thought, instead of actually wasting more cash on plastic toys, ineffectively, because that's what they are, why not try building something digital that actually does the job?
Yeah,
So I looked into having a look at some of these apps, and I started using them, and I thought, do they actually work? And the Ovulus really catches my idea, what I wanted it to be like, because the Ovulus has the same sensors, believe it or not, that most of these modern phones have.
yes,
But when I'm sitting and I'm using a particular paranormal apps on the phone, I realize that they don't actually, they're just spitting out words, or they're just giving you a false reading. There's nothing actually there to say, okay, so let's say, for instance, we've got an energy page or energy feature on the iOvilus Pro, and a lot of people are just getting the reading of on most conventional apps, where you are getting a reading that is being pushed out because it's on a time, or like a time lapse or something like that.
yeah,
Whereas not actually the fluctuation. So again, with the energy sort of mode, it works on the EMF, sensor that's inside, the magnetometer that's inside, which, by the way, I had somebody testing out the app, by the way, and they said, every time I put a magnet to it, it goes up.
yeah. That'll do the job.
And I'm like, that's because every mobile device has a magnetometer in it, so that's what it's designed to do. And I wanted to have a solid app which can work, and it's worked based on sensor fluctuation readings. So what you're getting is something which actually the EMF, when you're getting that detected, that's an actual EMF reading, not a reading which is then gimmicky and just decides to come out. But yeah, that's the whole idea of the app.
Because I know, and I'm not going to name any other apps, but there are certain apps that lots of groups use. There are people plastering all over YouTube and things like that. And as I said, we were discussing before we started recording, and I said I've actually had some reasonable results with these apps, but sometimes the results are questionable. As in, is there AI involved, or is it just, like you said, a random word generator? And are they actually using the instruments on the phone? Because quite often when this particular app goes off and it tells you you're having a fluctuation, the actual filters, all the devices are not going off.
That's
and then
right.
when they go off, this is not doing anything. So that tells me it's not using the features of the phone properly. So it's interesting that you say that you're taking it to the next level. So, and actually using the full capability of the phone.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to come up with an idea about what you wanted to include in the app and put it into action?
So, yeah, really, I was looking at the iOvilus, the actual Ovulus device itself, and I thought, well, okay, I need it to look like that. I want it to look like that. So I was just playing around with a lot of the coding. I built myself a word bank .json, because obviously, you have to have that for it to work.
Yeah.
And then I did my research into the latest phones and some of the older phones as well, because, we're not all there yet at the high tech sort of specs sort of thing. So I thought, well, let's have a look at it. So I'm going through all the phones, finding out what sort of sensors that they have in there, and is there a way that I can use those sensor data into giving me results?
Yeah.
So I sat there messing around, and it took me about a month, maybe about a month, and this was every night. So as soon as I finish from work, I'm, straight back on the computer, and I'm, doing everything, coding and stuff. And the first dictionary bit was first created, and I thought, does it work? That's the main thing. Because again, you've got things like the motion sensor, which is obviously inside the phone, and you've got the magnetometer. And also, I don't know if you know, but you've got a rotation sensor in there as well. So it means that if you rotate the phone, and so I put all them up to like max settings, all right, and hard coded it, and we took it out. And every time I was walking, it was in my pocket, it was going off. So I thought to myself, "Oh, that's not good. That's not good." And then Kieran, which is a friend of mine, he says to me, "Steve, why don't we give the users the ability to actually change the thresholds of these sensors themselves, depending on the environment that they're in?" And I'm like, actually, that's a brilliant idea. So back to the drawing board, back to the computer, and I'm, typing it all up. And then obviously the first ever iOvilus one with the user sensitivity, it was born. And I was like, okay, let's test it out. And we did an investigation, and it worked. It was, I'm walking down the road and nothing's happening. No words are coming out. And then I used his phone and put it to the back of my phone, and all of a sudden the EMF starts going up and the words then start being spoken. And the hardest part for me at that point was the ability to be able to put it into sentences. Now, what I wanted to do was not to put any sentences in the word banks. Okay. I wanted the potential spirit to be able to, or potential spirit to be able to pick words out to make a sentence. Now, that's never been done.
No, I haven't heard of that. It's something that I've always thought would be brilliant. Now, when I've used the PX, which is like the second generation, I guess, of the original
device.
Yeah. Well, that you get random words. It's not until you hit the play them all back, and you might get something out of it. But to hear it in real time, that's ridiculous. That's awesome.
Yeah. So going back to to these sentences, that's what I wanted. And I thought, is there a way to do that? And based on the words that are selected, it's not an algorithm. It certainly definitely isn't an algorithm. But what it does really, in terms of, I've had sentences come out using the dictionary, right? But what it does is it uses the reading that you currently have crossed with the readings that you before had, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we'll create a sentence using that. It's very complex.
All right, I'm going to start asking a few questions about the app now, because you've got me intrigued. Sorry, I keep messing around. I'm getting it just right. There's a little bit of buzzing coming back. But does it actually record a session so you have a list of the words, or is it just you have to record with a voice recorder at the moment?
No. So at the moment, we've got two separate apps. One's the EVP, so that one there will record audio. But that app is currently going to be released onto the beta stage of Google Play by the end of this week. The Growler's iOvilus is a dictionary. The free version is the dictionary, and I've loaded 290 words onto that one. The pro version, which obviously will be a cost because obviously it's taken me a lot of time. It'll take me 5 months to build. Is £4.99. So not expensive.
No.
And that one has it has 2,000 words built in at the moment, with a planned update by the 20th of October to have 12,000 words.
That's ridiculous. That That's a lot. You'd be able to get full conversations going with something like that, even with people
This,
that don't speak English.
yeah, yeah. So the functionality of the app at the moment is that you would turn it on, or you would click onto the app. Okay, you would start your session. You can calibrate it, because obviously it's always best to calibrate any sort of sensors before, because different environments, you have more noise in some, you have less in others. So you come to the calibration screen, and then straight after that, you will start working, and the words will come up on the screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's brilliant.
So it does actually speak the word out as well as come
It
up on the
does
screen.
indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it does, yeah.
All right. So I'm just trying to work out how I would formulate an investigation with this. So I would have a voice recorder going at the side so it can pick up the words through the session. But that may be something for an update. Put a recorder in there so it records the session.
Yeah, so basically what it does is at the end, so it will spit the words out, and at the very bottom, it will give you a list of the words that have already been spat out.
Yeah.
So, and then I've got, and it's in planned update, that we've got a word log, which is on a different screen. So, yeah, it's very much laid out like the Ovilus, right? But there's a lot more. Yeah. And one of them is called the word log. So every time a word is spoken, it will save it into that word log with a date and a time.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, actually, this was said at this time, this was said at that time. At the moment, it works. And because, again, the pro version is still in development, and hopefully should be released by the end of the week, which will be really good. And then, so the whole idea then is you're going to be able to create a whole session and an investigation with just your phone. That's the whole idea.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. It makes you go, well, gives you the ability to go to some much more out there places, because if you see the bloody big kit bag I've got on the floor behind me, actually that goes in the back of the car because I don't know what I'm going to use depending on where I'm going or what I'm doing. And then I've got a backpack beyond that. If I'm going further afield, I'll take that stays in the car, and then I'll take the other bits that I'm taking out yeah. And if you can get all of this into a phone, that would be absolutely sensational. Now, like I was saying to you earlier, there's a lot of apps out there that are very gimmicky that you just know they're not real. And I know, as you will probably agree with, is every paranormal or ITC device has to put the disclaimer in there that it's for entertainment purposes, but that's just to cover them from, people not going out there and trying to make $1 off them and saying it's the real deal,
Yes, of course.
I think it's good that you're actually now stepping into actually using the sensors to get some actual genuine readings and stuff like that. So going back, so you've got your first incarnation of the app and you've taken it out for a test. How did that go?
Wow. So how did it perform in the field?
Yeah.
Actually, surprisingly well, which as a developer is always a relief. Now, I've used it myself and, like I said, investigations, and I did give it out to my friends as well, which have their own teams. But then after a sort of maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks using it, the people that I gave it to, they were messaging me with stories about words, lining up to their sessions. And, I think one of them was, the first time I ever used it, it came out with the word teacher.
Yeah.
And he said, and the best thing is I've just got a new job as a teacher as well.
Yeah. Right? Things like that really get you.
And they, so a couple of my neighbours, they live across the road actually, they've used it. And there's things that have been going on around her house, like, things being moved, and she's forever. She thinks she's lost her mind. And I said, no. Have you ever thought that it could potentially be a spirit, a poltergeist that's doing this to you? Oh, don't be so silly, she said. Don't be so silly. Anyway, so I gave her my app, and she's used it. And she said, I couldn't believe it. I've got somebody in here called Derek, and it's Derek that's moving it around, and she loves it. Right. And she's showing me the logs and everything else. And it said something like she's got, on top of her washing machine, she's got, like a play ball, because she's got dogs. So it's like a play toy. And, it come up saying, I moved the ball. Right. And she's like, she runs into the kitchen and the ball's gone. Right. And I'm like, this is incredible. So the app is actually potentially performing. And I think everybody that has experienced it so far, I've not had any negative feedback from it saying, oh, it doesn't work. But obviously I did my homework when obviously creating the app. I looked on everything on the Play Store. And honestly, like you said, most apps, they don't even run on the real sensor fluctuations. They just throw words out on a timer, and not one of them actually lets you adjust the sensitivity with the thresholds. They're locked in factory settings, like a toaster. You can't change that, can you?
It's funny.
And that's where yeah.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny that you say that, because even going back before, like any of the Ovilus or any of those kind of things, way back, I did an investigation. A friend of mine and myself went over to Singapore, and we caught up with the Singapore Paranormal Investigation team. And we got to go out to the old Changi Hospital, and I shouldn't be saying that because you're not supposed to go there. You get shot if you go there. Anyway, we went to one of the buildings around the old Changi Hospital, and I had a couple of my devices with us, and they had this one that they were actually putting all of their faith into, and within an hour I'd debunked it. I had debunked it. They were loving it, and I'll describe it to you, but I'm not going to say what it is because the description should tell you. It's the old-fashioned, it's like a clear box with like a red dome on the top with a little needle arm and a couple of little flashy lights. I'm not going to say any more than that. But I was watching it, and when you first start out, we're getting responses. You're seeing the needles going, you're hearing the little screechies and stuff. But then I noticed a bit of a pattern. And I turned around and I said, this next one's going to give you 2 flashes. The next one's going to give you 1. The next one's going to give you 3. And they were like, huh? I said, it's just pre-programmed. And this is before, this is an actual device. It's not like an iPhone thing. This is an actual device of its own. And they were doing that way back then. You know what I mean? And that really does a disservice to anybody who's out there actually trying to investigate the paranormal. So, my hat's off to you for actually doing the proper thing and actually not just making it a big gimmick and actually trying to do something that people can use. You know what I mean? And then I would use some of my stuff. And again, I'm not going to name names because a lot of it people know. And some of it went off, some of it didn't go off. So I knew that when we got some stuff there, we really did get some stuff there. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just not theirs. I could just look at it, see what happened, and then I could tell them the next 5 or 6 readings that were going to happen. And it happened exactly as I said. So there are people out there that just like to get a couple of dollars out of people that are interested in the paranormal.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, that's where the eye ovular stands out. The growler's eye ovular stands out. Is that you can fine tune it to your environment.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the things I really like, because if you go into a place and everybody's got a phone on, because you tell everybody put your phone in flight mode, there's always somebody that doesn't.
Yes.
And if you pick up on that, and it's going to go absolutely nuts if everybody's got that going. So the fact that you can actually calibrate it for your specific situation, it's, man, you get a thumbs up.
It makes it useful because for actual investigations. So once the pro version is fully released, it's going to be one of a kind tool because nothing else like it exists. And so far I am really proud of what I've managed to achieve, but also it's not just about me. It's about potentially every paranormal investigator out there not being taken for a fool, right? Because we've all done it. Like you said with the story you've just mentioned, I've used certain apps before, or I've used in certain devices, and I'm getting complete false readings, but I'm believing that they are true readings because anyone that's a paranormal investigator is so invested into finding out, the unknown, right? Yeah. So we're taking these and we're just getting false positives all the time. And I feel that there needs to be a time that these apps on the phones people do dismiss, and they do, because for that very reason they're very gimmicky. They throw out words on a timer, they whatever. But I think with the technology we've got now, why can't we start using the technology inside the phones to the best of our advantage?
Yeah.
So that's why.
And I'm assuming this would work the same. Well, I don't know. Do tablets have the same sensors? I would assume they do as an
Of
iPhone
course, of
or as
course.
an Android phone. So you could use it
Yeah,
on.
yeah, tablets. Yeah, yeah. Again, magnometer. You'll always have one of those in any device that is electronic. So again, I mean, this is probably PG, but like this here, which you can't see, but you can now, is is a vape, right?
Okay, sorry for that, everybody. We're having a few technical issues going on. As you can see, Steve's background has changed a little bit. For those of you who are watching, those of you who are listening, forget what I just said. Steve, do you want to pick it up where we left off?
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about how devices around the home, or the general devices that we have every day, including sort of vaping equipment to TVs to laptops to mobile phones to tablets, and they all emit that EMF reading.
Yeah.
And it was being able to use that to test out, obviously, the iOverless app for the EMF fluctuations. And it worked. So I thought, well, rather than, giving an app which people cannot rely on 100%, it's basically proves that it's not, the app proves that it's not just a filler, but it's adding to the actual paranormal experience.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, I know you were saying about you're developing another app that's going to be going into beta sometime this week, the EVP one.
That's correct, yeah.
What's going on with that one? What's that one all about? Please tell me.
Yeah, no worries. So with the EVP, so the whole idea is it's going to record audio, and again have the threshold to sensitivity to be able to change the sensitivity settings, and actually calibrate and take away the raw noise that's around you at the same time. So that the actual responses that you're going to get are going to be responses that, hopefully, fingers crossed, that every paranormal investigator wants to hear is somebody of, from the unknown. That's the whole idea, because at the moment, again, when you've got an EVP device, you can't change the settings. You can't sit there and change the sensitivity of it, and you can't calibrate it.
No, you can't. And one of the things that you do find when you're doing EVP work is that there's no sort of cleaning it up. You've just got to bring it into some sort of an audio editor, and generally there's a lot of background noise that you have to try and get rid of to get anything that's even audible. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'll tell you now, there's a guy over here who is just starting out in the paranormal, and he sees me a lot to sort of show him the ropes on a lot of stuff. He's been going into this place, which I'm not going to name because not technically, you're not supposed to go there. And he has got in there now. It's an old hospital, and it hasn't been used in probably 40 years, and it's still there. Now, he was in there one night, just him and his mate, and they were doing, your average kind of call to get a response, and with it being a hospital, he was sort of saying, "This is Dr. Such and Such, come and get your medication," because it was a mental hospital.
Yeah.
And he heard this noise, and he thought it was so good that he had to come over here for me to hear it. Now, he has a little laptop. He doesn't have any editing gear or anything like that. He's right in the infancy of his paranormal investigation career. So he comes up, and I've plugged it in, and we're playing it, and he goes, "Here it is now." And all you hear is well, it was somebody breathing. Wipe that out. But as you're hearing that, there's this tiniest little noise that I picked up in my headphones, and I go, "You need to hear that." He didn't hear anything. So from there, I actually cleaned it up. If I get a chance, I'll actually play it for you off air when we're finished. And I shit you not, it was a woman talking on a hospital PA system.
Really?
And it sounds like I'm following you, and that's what it sounds. That's what it sounds like. But I'll play that for you later on. In fact, I can even share you the link so that you can actually hear it, because I edited it all up from. I tried to clean it up and boost it up as best I could.
Yeah.
But if in an app situation it does a lot of that processing sort of stuff for you. When you bring it into your sort of proper gear to really clean it up, you can end up with some absolutely ridiculously clear EVP.
Yes, and that's the whole idea. So, like, I was watching a couple of. I'm a huge fan of. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I will say it anyway. But, of Project Fear from America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say the other one?
Yeah, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, huge fan of them. And some of the EVPs that they were getting, they were very sort of distorted, and you had the writing come up on the screen to suggest that's what it is. But again, it was quite distorted, and you don't know if that is exactly what it's saying. So even when you then take it back, which I'm presuming that they've done because they are, they're very good at what they do. But when they then pull the raw audio file and then put it onto editing software to try and enhance it or whatever, clean it up, it's still, you're not getting that. You're still getting that distortion. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I can then design something like the EVP app that we've got at the moment, that I can actually remove the ambient noises automatically, and you're setting that threshold. So anything that's over that threshold now is going to try and become clear. And I'm not saying that every response that people are going to this EVP is going to end up with complete clear audio, because realistic terms, it's never going to happen.
No. And one of the things I actually said to this guy is that you've got a better his wife, and I'm going to say the name now. His wife is a big fan of Ghost Adventures. Anyway, I said to him, you've got a better EVP than any Ghost Adventures episode everywhere, because whenever you listen to one of them who goes EVP captured, and then they play it back, yes, your throat is mine, or something like that, and you read it, and then your brain tries to merge the two together. That's the wrong way to do it. This EVP that he captured, we didn't actually put up there what we thought it said. We said to everybody that was watching, tell us what you think. And a lot of them came back with the same thing. I'm following you.
Yeah.
That's a sign of a good EVP.
Yeah. And again, that's the reason why, again, when these things come up on the screen, it was like, but is it actually saying that? Or am I just reading what it says and computing the two together? So, yeah, the EVP is going to be, I think it's going to be huge. And again, that's going to be free. That's
bullshit. All right. I'll have to get the link to that one as well. Now, one of the questions, this is one of the big things. They do it in the TV shows, and with something like an EVP app, is there a possibility of an update at some point where if there's something that could potentially be an EVP, it sort of gives you a flash on the screen or something to make it look like this is picked up?
So at the moment, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm trying to get like a synthesizer. I'm designing a synthesizer for that EVP app. At the moment, you can save, record, and export any sort of audio, which is what I think everybody should be able to do.
Yeah.
But then it's really difficult to try and make an analytic screen based on that specific reading. That's what I'm trying to add into that at the moment, so that you would be able to sit there and go into, a 5-second segment. And you should be able to press the button to enhance. So it will enhance it. So basically a bit like an editor. But you'll be able to see the real life analytics, the data analytics for that specific clip. That's what I'm trying to aim for next.
That's awesome. Now, myself personally, we investigated, this is probably 15, 16 years ago now. We investigated a pretty historic landmark here in Perth, and it's a very historic theatre. When I say historic, not just because it's old, but lots of stuff happened there. There's some like below ground bars in there, which, you're thinking back to like your gangster type things. Lots of dodgy stuff happened down in these areas and things like that, as well as everything that happened throughout the history of the theatre itself. We got a big tour of the place. What they said was we had to go in after the Melbourne Comedy Festival had come to Perth, because It starts out in Melbourne, then it does a tour around the country and things like that. And what they said was the activity is usually at its highest after a show. So we waited for them to finish. They cleared out the entire place. Even security left. We were just left in the place all by ourselves, except for the guy that was on the door to let us in and out at the back. That was the only, and he didn't move from his box office little thing that he had, his little cubicle thing. Now, I was in the amphitheater on the stage where all the performances happened, and it was just myself and two of the ladies that were with us. One was our psychic at the time, and this was back when it was the old, the old spirit box things.
Yes.
The old-fashioned ones. It was one of them, but we were recording EVP at the same time. Now, we didn't get anything on the spirit box, but we were starting to pick up that something was going on. There was something hanging around. And our psychic said, I can feel you. Where are you? Like that. And when we played back the EVP, because there was nothing came through on the spirit box, but on the EVP, we get a male voice going, behind you.
Really?
And I was the only bloke in there, and it had a deeper voice than me, this thing. It was quite... So I've got that. And again, if you've got something that can actually remove a lot of that background noise and clear things up, it's going to take the paranormal to the next level.
Yeah.
So again,
and that's the whole idea, because a lot of people, are skeptical about using apps on the phone because again, they know that, although we have to label them for Google Play's policies, as well as the iOS for Apple, that it is entertainment only. People assume that it's not real, right? But it's only when you start to actually use a device or use the apps, the different apps that are on the market, and there are tons. There are so many apps on the market at the moment, and it's only when you start using it and you think, actually, this isn't right. This is, there's something that's not right about this, and it doesn't work how a handheld device would work. And again, that's when going back into actually using what's the equipment and the hardware that's available to us now inside tablets, mobile phones, all of that lot, that I've decided to bring it all together. But not only that, but to be able to use what we find using this app or the EVP or the Grounders Eye Ovilus as part of a building investigation.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting. All right, moving on from that. Do you have any future plans of more apps? And then you can create like the Growlers suite of apps?
Yeah, so my plans for the future for other apps and the Eye Ovilus is the Eye Ovilus Pro is already been completed, but I'm not rushing it out the door. Definitely not. I want to spend the next couple of weeks or so making sure that there are no bugs or functionality problems, because again, there will always be. So before I will push it up to the update, which is when it's live, so that people that have already downloaded it will be able to see the pro version. Adds loads of new modes. The pro feature, which is the dictionary, the yes and no, the energy readings, and even some experimental visuals. So when I say,
come on, tell us about them.
When I say experimental visuals, it's using these sensors to map out an image. It allows the entity, the spirit, to use the phone as a drawing tablet.
In real time?
In real time. Yeah.
How does that look?
It looks pretty cool. It looks, at the moment, it's only like a really square box at the moment. If you think of like blocks, and that moves all around the screen at the moment. And like I said, it's in active development. There will be a version of it already in the app and the pro version, but disclaimer, it's not going to be 100% yet, because obviously there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to it. But yeah, it's incredible. I've had a face come out of it already. And yeah, really good.
So you can't actually manipulate it with your touchscreen, or can you?
You can't touch it. No. So you can't
that's your next thing, is make it so it's touchscreen work, because then you could play noughts and crosses with the spirits.
Yeah, maybe that'd be really good. Yeah, that'd be really good to incorporate that. I think at the moment I'm looking at more as obviously the sense of fluctuations, so
Yeah.
allowing the environment to be able to map out an image.
No, I get that, but where I'm going is,
That would,
if you could do like noughts and crosses, you put your X and then see
yes,
if something else
if a circle happens,
plays the game with you. That is a 100% sign of interactive.
yes,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. And I think that's a brilliant idea. And do you know what? I'm going to write that down after the podcast. I'm going to write that down.
Well, good luck trying to work that one out, but I've got ideas. It's just a matter of I haven't got the brains to actually put stuff like that together. I think that would be absolutely fantastic, and that would definitely show signs of spirit interaction if you can get something like that going. And it takes away from something as specific as that would take away from it just being, because I know it doesn't matter what you say, or there's going to be those people that are going to say, oh, it's this or it's that. You know what I mean? There's always those people out there.
Of course.
And something like that is definitely more of an interactive thing, especially if there's no spoken word. If you get actual responses to something like that, then...
And to be fair, tic-tac-toe has been out for many years. So it's a highly played game. It is, the app actually is a very big step up from the iOvolus base version. And at the same time, obviously, as you know, the Growlers EVP is in closed beta right now with a handful of testers, and that's going to be rolled out publicly. So again, that's not going to be something which I'm going to charge for. So yeah, things are moving quickly, but I want to make sure that they're done 100% right. I don't want people to come back saying that this app is absolute rubbish. I want it to work 100%, as well as a lot of other paranormal investigators. I think the tic-tac-toe thing that you were mentioning, though, definitely I'm putting that.
I think that's, like I said, it just, when you started talking about it, and I was picturing these old-fashioned, like the little square pixel games that you used to see, and I thought, noughts and crosses, and I thought, hang on, is there a touch function? Because you've got the touch function on a screen already. It's just a matter of incorporating it into an app.
Of course, and that's, to be fair, that's pretty easy to do.
You're getting me excited about this app, man. You better get this done by the end of the week.
So I just, the whole idea, like I said to you beforehand many times, is I want to be able to the users to be able to use my app to have the experience, the results that I've had already, but not only that, but for it to actually work.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, we're gonna have to start winding things up soon. But where can people find you, and where can they find the app at the moment?
Obviously, at the moment, there's a few things that a few platforms that I don't tend to use. I use Facebook, and obviously you can type on Growlers Paranormal Tools and search for us on there, and it comes up with a page. We did have a friend. I created a friend page, but unfortunately, and I don't know whether it was because it blew up because people like it, I don't know, but within 24 hours I had 5,000 friend requests, which is like the maximum you can have. So I was like, hey, I don't know if this is legit or somebody's just spamming it, I don't know. So I decided to delete that one, and I created an actual page, so you can find us on there. The email's address and our WhatsApp is on there as well, on Facebook. And as we were talking off air a second ago about the sort of YouTube and things like that, and videos and stuff. And obviously, as of yesterday, we've started, or last night, went out on an investigation onto Portland. Did a bit of investigating there in the tunnels there to try and find the drummer boy, the one that plays his drum through the tunnel.
Yep. Please talk away.
Yeah, it was a very, very good experience. Very good experience. We turned up there. There's many different tunnels there, and it's where they used to sort of, just during the end of World War One, is where the French decided to put all of their big AT-AT guns and all that sort of stuff there. And they had numerous reports that it was this young child playing a drum, a military drum. So we went and investigated last night. And we got some very good responses. One of them being our energy feature on the app. Not really tested it really much out before that because obviously I know it works because I've tested it at home,
Yeah.
but never really sort of out in the field. And it starts up at about 65. You set it to about 65 naturally, and then obviously you can then just lower it down depending on what the environment is. So I put it down to 10, and yeah, all of a sudden it's one of those noises, right? Every time it reaches its peak, so you're away from it, but you can still hear it if it goes off.
Yeah.
And it starts going off. It tells us to follow it left out the door using the dictionary of the app. And we moved left out the door, and all of a sudden the REM pod starts going off, the light bulbs start going off, and we're like, and then we're hearing voices and footsteps, but it was almost like running towards us. And we were like, because it's a public area, we want to make sure that it's not anyone else. So we're like, grab the camera.
Yeah.
And we're literally running. I've gone one way, Kieran's gone the other way, and we couldn't find nobody. So it's a really, really bizarre. But what we're trying to do is record all of our responses and videos and things, and then create a YouTube channel once we've got a bit more sort of videos and a bit more locations.
Definitely. Once you've got a fair bit sorted out, you can come back on and do a bit of an update on how the app's going and where you are with the tic-tac-toe and all the other bits.
Definitely doing that tic-tac-toe.
No, I'm intrigued. I can use the apps and throw them away. You know what I mean? Everybody's got their favorite app, but this sounds like it's going to take the best parts of everybody's favorite apps and throw them all together. And using the proper sensors and everything like that, I think you're onto a winner here, mate. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I said. The whole idea for me is that when people start using the app and they're starting to get responses and intelligent responses, not obviously from AI, but from actual real life sensors, that they can actually start building up a portfolio of the paranormal investigating sort of evidence that they collect. And I think that, by using my app, you can do that.
And all right, now my brain's going nuts here. Will there be a possibility in a future version of the iOvilus where people can enter their own words and then save them to the database? Or is that not something that can happen at the moment?
It is something that can happen. However, because we're using what's basically it's called Firebase, and that is the database behind the app that allows obviously for the words that we've. I mean, like I said, this one's got 2,000 words, the Pro one. Obviously, we're going to hopefully expand that into 12,000.
Yeah.
But obviously, it does cost, and that's obviously the reason why we had to charge for the app. If not, it would have been free. But there is potentially a way that people can add their own words in. Yeah, but I think that that's going to be. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? If that were to happen?
Well, my thoughts being that quite often, like we go down to a place called the Albany Quarantine Station every year, and it's almost like they recognise us when we come back. And my thoughts were, if you go to a place often enough and you get an idea on names or historic names, or even put your team members' names in there, that you can get a lot more interactive response when, who do you want to speak to? Gary, Steve, and then things like that come up. Just anybody who's into the paranormal, if they can do things like that, enter some of these names, especially something that might be very specific to a location, it might really tailor a person's paranormal experience while they're there. That's a really, really good idea. I suppose obviously when I put the 12,000 words, a lot of it, the way that the JSON file works is that you will have sections which will be pronouns, verbs, names, places, that sort of stuff, items, and it will list it all the way down. And then obviously depending on the threshold and what the threshold reading is, to the fluctuation change. So, let's say for instance, you've got the word Gary, right? Yeah.
Let's say that word Gary, it will go, right, I'm going to pick that up from, because it's gone up to like, say, 54 UHT down to, 12, and then it's gone back up to 30. And it uses that to go, okay, I'm going to select a word from which category. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as far as sentences, we've actually had sentences come out, but there's nothing in the files with any sentences in. So that's incredible.
It is.
And I think by using what I want to try and aim to do is use every word from the dictionary.
Yeah.
That's what we want to try and use, as well as people's names and stuff. I think that adding it at the moment, I think it's a definite idea, and I think that would be something that is useful for, especially with people. Obviously, if you are going into a specific location, or you're with, like you said, with other people.
Well, in all honesty, if you're going up to a 12,000 word version, the 12,000 word version will cover a hell of a lot of names, as well as a lot of other words that you can string sentences together from, or,
Yeah.
But
I mean, currently at the moment, the app size just for the word JSON file with the 2,000 words, I mean, it's nearly sort of 25, 30, maybe about 35 megs of data already. And that's already for 2,000. So it's going to hike it up a bit, but it's whether or not I could be able to get the devices to be able to read that information in real time that quickly as well, which it needs to be. And so that's obviously, we're working on a back end sort of way. Working on the back end to sort of get that involved, if that makes sense, to string it together, which is the hardest bit. But yeah, definitely, I think that would be quite good. I think, yeah. So as long with the names and the tic-tac-toe, I reckon one's a winner. Is there? I wanted to ask you a question. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience in the field. I'm not going to say how much because
Well, I did have hair on the top when I started. It's all down here now.
That's just from the encounters you've had.
So
if I was to ask you a question, what would you want from a paranormal app?
Well, pretty much what you've already been describing. Now, I also like the... See, this is why I asked you about if there's going to be a suite of apps, because I like... And again, this is just a me thing. The old... Some people call them spinning radios, spirit boxes or whatever. I like the idea of one of those, but without all the background noise, if you know what I mean, or just minimized, so that the words that do come through are much clearer. Which is it sounds like you're already sort of heading along similar sort of lines, because I use so many different apps, and I usually discount so many different apps. I think on my phone now, hang on, let's have a quick look. If I look, because I've got a whole folder here for the paranormal apps that I do use. I'm not going to name them, but I have 8 apps.
Yeah.
There's 8 and one of them is definitely that. One's that app that you and I were talking. In fact, no, I've only got 7 because one of them's actually ties into a thermal imaging camera, a proper thermal imaging camera. So I've only got 7 apps that I actually use, and I don't use them. There's probably 2 of those at least that I can get rid of. But for me, if you were to put a suite of apps together, the iObulus one, 100%, especially with the tic-tac-toe and all that. The EVP, where it can clean up, and I would love it if it was able to flag, because when you play an EVP back, if you could see like the wave line, and then if there's like a flag where it thinks it's picked an EVP up, so you can sort of jump to those spots rather than go through a 20-minute file listening to every little nuance of the static and stuff like that. That would be good. And then, some kind of a spirit radio type thing, but using things, you'd have to use a microphone for that, because obviously you'd be asking questions, but not AI related responses. I would want something like when you record it, you're actually recording the voices of the people there, as well as what is being played back through the app itself.
I think it's not hard to recreate the normal sort of apps that you can use for Spirit Box. Again, with that sort of noise as well, and then you'll get the, I
would want that really amped down. You know what I mean?
So basically, that's really easy to recreate, and that's exactly what it is. It's a creation. It's basically every app that I've had that is supposedly a spirit box doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm not discrediting anybody out there that believes that they do, because everybody's different and we believe in what we believe in. But when I look into the scientific ways that these apps have been built, it's a radio channel. That's literally it. It's just sweeping a radio. And I think that's the main, what people like, because when they hear spirit box, they automatically think of the you know. But with the, I wanted to try and steer away from that, because anybody can have any response from a spirit box that is just a radio frequency, which is AM or FM or medium, long wave, or whatever. Just by scanning through the channels, you're going to hear words.
Yeah. I get that. No, there was, one of the TV shows, I can't remember which one it was. I think Katrina Wyman's in it. And they've got this big old-fashioned looking radio thing, and the sound is totally different to anything I've heard from anything else. And I would like to investigate that kind of thing. And I did find the device on eBay, but it's like $1,200, and I'm not spending $1,200 to. Again, at the bottom it says, for entertainment purposes, I'm not spending $1,200 to be entertained like that for a couple of hours. But one other thing that may potentially something is with the iOvilus, and you're starting to get some of these discussion type where you can get sentences out of it and words. Maybe look at something where you can actually have like a male voice or a female voice there, so that they can tie into something, and then, you know what I mean? It might, if a girl can hear there's a girl voice there, I'll play with that rather than the male voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just another thought there, but
yeah. I mean, at the moment we've got the features that are there, but we haven't implemented them yet. Which is that, again, based on fluctuations, the TTS, which is text to speech service, will change the voice.
Oh, okay.
So we have that. It's not implemented yet, and it's probably not going to be, I would say, for about another month or so, only because there's a lot of bugs and stuff with it at the moment, and we want to make sure that it's 100% working before we roll it out. So yeah, I think that is already implemented, what will be into that, so that let's say, for instance, you're working on a motion sensor, and you've popped your phone or your tablet on the side, and again, within those ranges of the thresholds, it's going to then turn around and not only determine what the word's going to be, not determine, but also the speech as well, the sound.
Wow. Yeah, you got me thinking. See, my brain's starting to tick over, which means my mouth's starting to stop. So we might have to call it now. So much stuff going through my head. But Steve, I'd like to thank you for being on the show. And do you want to give a shout out to all of your socials again, so people know where to go and where to find the apps as they pop up?
Yeah, of course. So to find the apps, it's very simple. Just type into Google Play Store, into the search. And just type in Growlers, GROWLERZ. Now, at the moment, I just a little bit more, if you don't mind. With the Growlers Obvious app, the baseline app, was supposed to be released today. However, it's been delayed. I've just had an email that said that they're delaying it for 24 hours because they're reviewing it. All right.
Yep.
So it will be out tomorrow. On the Play Store, which is the baseline version, not the Pro, and then you'll have further updates on from there. And so you can find us if you have any questions, any queries, if you want to test it out and be a beta tester or beta tester, as they call it. Then by all means reach us out on Facebook, which is Growlers Paranormal Tools, and you can also email us as well, growlersparanormaltools@gmail.com. That
is awesome. So on that, I think we will say goodbye, because I've got so much stuff going through my head now, and I'm going to totally reinvent your app the way I'm going. So I hope you'll come back on again soon when you've got some updates on future apps that are coming out.
100%, Gary. It's been an absolute pleasure to be invited to speak with you, and hopefully let's do it again.
Yeah, so everybody, Growlers iOvilus, that's what you need to look out for at the App Store. It will be available in the next 24 hours, so keep your eye open for it, and share the love. So, Steve, thank you very much for your time, mate.
And you, Gary, you too. Thanks very much.
Take it easy.